All right, welcome to Ditch Digger CEO. We got one of our good friends here with us today. Somebody that's an amazing example of somebody that started from the bottom and has worked his way to an amazing entrepreneur, leader of a great organization. Become a great friend of mine and my family's over the last 15 years. So Dean Vicha, welcome to Ditch Digger CEO. This is your second. This is your return from 5 years ago. But welcome back, brother.
Yeah, no, hey, it's good to be back, Gary. I feel like I got that. You really get you've made it when you get that second return on Saturday Night Live to host, right? And this has got to be the next best thing. So
absolutely.
I appreciate being back here.
And Dean, you know what? We started all this, and Chris, I think you probably remember this. We started with a lot of my friends that were that helped us on the mentorship side at True Mentors. And Dean, you were definitely like one of the guys that would always, if Quentin had somebody that he needed mentorship and he didn't have anybody to mentor, he'd call you and he'd say, I'll take another one. Sure, Quentin, what do you want me to do? I'll take it out, right? And we had a handful of we had a few dozen people that did it with us, but we had a few of you like you and Ed Zeman and a few that Quentin could always go back to the well and say, hey man, I need your help. I got another person to mentor, and I'd love it for it to be you, and you can take on more than a couple a year. And so we appreciate that. And again, that's what this is about. That's 100% what we want to do with Ditch Digger CEOs. Want to make sure that young people, anybody, or people our age listening, just get some nuggets of ideas that they could use in their own lives, right? As entrepreneurs and business leaders. So you're one of our favorites, brother. So thanks for being here again.
No, well, hey, I really appreciate it. I've had a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, just by happen chance, I'm actually having lunch with Quentin today.
I know.
Haven't seen him for a while, but he'll reach out once in a while on LinkedIn. So we're gonna go have lunch today. But it was a great organization, did a lot of great things, right? None of us are here without a bunch of people who lifted us up and mentored us. And hey, I'm 57 years old. I've still got some great mentors, and knock on wood, I'll lead them. I'll lead them to it. So it's you learn more from those people too. Even mentoring, I've learned more from the people like Quentin and the folks that I've gotten to meet through what you guys did at True Mentors and other places. And quite frankly, it's a lot of fun.
Well, you know what, and again, Dean, there's so many things that when we think about mentorship, there's so many things that you want to teach younger people or people that are mentoring, and something that I think about you with it is there's many laws of success, right? And I think back as we started this podcast, it was really about how do we kind of duplicate the idea of the laws of success that I once read by Napoleon Hill. A lot of the things we talk about on our podcast are really the same laws of success, right? Many of the same simple laws of success. And the thing I think about you though is connectivity, right? I mean, you connect with everybody. I think about you in YPO and all the years I spent around you YPO. When you're at a YPO event, people are around you, waiting to talk to Dean because you got great relationships with so many people. When I think about Dean and Chris, when I think about Dean, you got to see him at the golf course at Bull Valley. There's always a few people, 3, 4, 5 people around Dean telling stories, right, and connecting with people. And that the law of attraction, I call that, right, is an important thing. And because I think of people that are so smart and they've got so many strong suits, whether it be their math mind is amazing, their entrepreneurial mind is amazing, their engineering mind is amazing, but they don't connect well. They don't have that. They don't understand, or they haven't been in front of, or maybe comfortable with that law of attraction, or the ability to connect with others, maybe through example in their lives or whatever, and that inhibits their ability to succeed in a big way. When you have that law of attraction, where man, everybody wants to hang out with you, and the Reagan type of factor, life is a little easier, right? And so Dean, you're one of the best examples, in my opinion, of that. And you're I think a culture of a business, culture of a club, culture of anything, it revolves around how well you and those around you attach to each other as friends and look forward to being with each other, right?
Yeah.
So I gotta say that's something that there's not many people better, Dean, than you. And I admire you for that because it's just so much fun to watch. People attached to you. So
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know if I believe everything that you said in there, but it was certainly humbling. Hey, I grew up playing team sports, right? And that's what I loved. And I loved being a part of a team. I loved winning with a team. Hey, I probably missed the locker room and the stuff even more than the games. But it was, it's the camaraderie. And I remember you brought up YPO. The first YPO event I ever went to was actually when I was, you had to do two when you were a prospect, right? And the first one I ever did was an MBA for a day at Northwestern University Kellogg School of Business, and there was a professor of marketing, and he really talked, and his entire hour was talking about connectors and really using examples. And I always remember he had the story of the day Paul Revere went out for the ride. There were actually two people that went out for the ride that day, and Paul Revere went one way, and another gentleman went the other. And the other gentleman rode farther, worked longer, and went to more towns than Paul Revere. But Paul Revere went and he specifically targeted who's the person that is connected to everybody in that town. And that's the person that he went to, right? And certainly Paul Revere, I want to say, brought back, 2/3 of what that militia was the next day, right? And that one always stuck with me. And to your point, right? If you look at the world, there's connectors because you can't do it all by yourself. And boy, I'm not really good at anything but maybe that, putting together a team, because there's always somebody smarter than me at sales or operations or whatever. And if I can get the best of the best, and put them together and then take out the hurdles or the roadblocks that they have on their way to achieve the goals that we want to achieve on a team. That's what I see my job being there. And then that's a lot of fun. And then, we always say here at NationaLease, we're going to, we're work hard, play hard. We're going to celebrate the wins together. We're going to eat the losses together. But it's a team effort all the time.
It's so true. And again, it's if you don't have that, you can be the smartest guy in the room, right? But if you don't have anyone to bounce things off of, share your thoughts with, and go after the next challenges with, right? It doesn't work out so well, unfortunately. But if you're I look at the leadership is that you got to be smart enough, but you're really leaning on so many others within your network that are way smarter in so many aspects of your life, right? Right now, Dean, I want to hear about where you're at in your business, but I just got back from and maybe I'll do a podcast on this because it was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
I was in Serbia, Republic of Srpska, Montenegro, and I'm looking at infrastructure work that's $500 million to $3 billion jobs. And my team and everybody around me said, "Well, Rabine, you do like $100,000 jobs and $50,000 jobs, and once in a while you do $1 million or $2 million job. Why would you be looking at this?" Well, I'm very confident that with my experiences, I can build a team, as you just said, a team that is experienced, and we have some of these people within our businesses, by the way, engineers that are capable of building bridges and tunnels and large infrastructure. I'm very confident that our technology that we use in site technology can be transferred, and it is being transferred to municipal and infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
So I'm very confident that with my relationships of trust that I can transfer to this opportunity, we will be successful. And unfortunately, unfortunately, I say if a person doesn't have those relationships and doesn't have the confidence that he can build that team, you can't even think about this. So many of my friends and people on my team at the Rabine Group will say, "Gosh, this is a little different, man. Are you sure we're ready for this?" And I'm saying, "Heck yeah, we're ready," because I'm very confident that we can build a team with the relationships and trust that we have across the board, right? And so This is the way you think, and this is the way, overachievers think. And if we didn't have these relationships, we couldn't even pretend to think this way, right?
Yeah, I think you're on it. I think it's probably so important that you went over there, right? And you did those things face to face. Because boy, when it comes into some kind of hey, whether it's a merger or an acquisition or something, what you're talking about going to a different place and into a different culture. And culture matters. Culture matters number one to me. That is the most important thing. That I believe I need to demonstrate and hold people accountable for. And quite frankly, when we're looking to build that team, they've got to be people that fit our culture. When we look for people to do business with, we want people that meet our culture. And going over there, I think you need to understand the culture, because boy, a lot of the failures that I see around me or that I have had have been a failure of having, where the cultures didn't match. And that's not even to say one's better than the other. But hey, you're talking about a long-term relationship of what you're doing in the Balkans, right? What we do at National Lease is a long-term relationship, right? We are going to lease somebody their truck and maybe their driver that they're going to commit to for 5 or 7 years, and we become their de facto transportation department. Our cultures aren't aligned. It's going to be rough, and it's not going to work, and it's not going to work for either side. So
Jump on those core values. I know you shared with me before and shared with us. Give us your core values that you live by and that you have to inspire your team to live by.
boy, if if I did, I don't know if I've never been one really to write a bunch of them down, but hey, if I talk about it, I always say, hey, there's 3 things that I really look for in somebody that I hire or somebody I want to partner with, right? And now I want to raise 3 values I want my children to have. Maybe that's the best way to do it. And the first one was persistence. You never quit. You never give up. You get knocked down, you get up, and you keep and you keep moving. Number 2 was personal responsibility. You take responsibility for what happens, right? And Gary, in these roles, hey, we're not finger pointing, we're not blaming. At the end of the day, the buck stops here. It's in my office. We make a mistake, we screw something up. We don't say, well, that was this fault or something else. You got to go back and take a look and say, what could I have done to make that better, right? I'm a little bit different. It's probably old school. I read about a lot of things now, and there's that there's no such thing as failure, but there's learning. I disagree with that. I think there is failure. A loss is a fail. Hey, you get a game. It's not death, right? It's not the end. You're going to learn from it. But boy, it was a failure. It was a loss. I've had an F on my report card. My dad didn't ask me if I learned anything. My dad held me accountable for an F, right? When I lost a game or if we lost something, we didn't get kicked off the team. Coach didn't kick you off. But boy, the next day wasn't something you looked forward to because there was accountability. And I think recognizing that and then taking the responsibility for what happened, not blaming it on others. What could I have done to change that outcome, right? That's what that's a big piece here. And then the other one would be self-confidence. You have to be confident in what you do. And if you're not confident in what you're doing, I think it's going to be really hard to be successful, at that. I think they can come in that order. You really teach that persistence, you teach that personal responsibility, and self-confidence comes with those things, right? But I've never met anybody in my life or a team in my life that didn't have those 3 qualities that wasn't successful. And fundamentally, I think if we focus on those things, you're gonna come out on top more often than not.
Wow, those are pretty. They're simple, but boy, they're all encompassing for sure. Right? We lack, and I think any generation would probably say the same thing. When you're 55, 60-year-olds like we are, you might say, they're not as accountable. The kids aren't as accountable as they used to be, right?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
no, they're just not as persistent as they were when we were kids, right? Where's your self-confidence? I mean, those are 3 things that we never think it's getting weaker and this, that, but I think it's just a different type of generation. that you can find all three of those things in if you just, look a little bit, and you see it in a different way maybe, but it's there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 100%. I think, we end up becoming we're the result of our experiences, right?
Yeah.
And those things, and we're the result of how we were raised, and what our mentors, who our mentors were. Going back to that, that's a huge thing, right? You pick your mentors in some ways, right? Or you hope that they pick you. But again, hey, your culture has to align, right? There's a lot of smart people, but maybe me and that person are on the same page. Probably not a great mentor for me, or not a good person for me to mentor.
How did you find mentors in your life, Dean? Just happenstance, or did you
Yeah.
focus on that, or whatever? And then, I mean, I know you're a mentor to many, but
Yeah.
think about those mentors you met in your life early on, and even today. How did you go about finding them, reaching out to them, or asking them to help?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think if I was really being honest about it, obviously my first mentor was my father. Um, and then it would become, I don't know if I necessarily always was smart enough to say I got to go find a mentor. Right. But all of a sudden I would gravitate to somebody I respected, and who's somebody I thought cared about me. And that didn't always mean I had basketball coaches. My mentors as basketball coaches weren't the ones who rolled out the ball and said, Dean, go do what you want to do. Go do it. They were the ones that beat me up against the wall, because actually I kind of figured it out a little bit. With my father. Hey, look, he was incredibly hard on me and my brother and my sister about accountability. And about personal responsibility, right? Not so much on the self-confidence, but I think he knew if we had those things that would eventually come. But those were the guys that I kind of gravitated to. They were a little bit tougher. They didn't tell me I was great all the time, but boy, I could kind of read through it eventually. Even though some days I really didn't like them. I really learned a lot from them. And then my father, I remember when I first got into business, my dad was not a businessman. He was a teacher, a coach, then an administrator, former Marine. Um, I remember very early on, right when I first got out of school and got my first real job at Rollins Truck Leasing. One of the things my dad said was, hey, go find somebody who's just a little bit above you and get on their coattail, somebody that you respect, that is going to keep moving up, and find out how they do things, and get there, and go find those people. And boy, he was spot on, because I was lucky enough to have a couple of people in my life. I still have some today. Doug Clark, who's the CEO, president of Course Centric, but I could go through a list at different times in my life, business wise, of people who were a little bit above me, who took out the time, who showed that they cared, who held me accountable, and gave me opportunities. And I'll always remember those people. We don't have enough time for me to list who they are, but
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I had them.
Who taught you something we mentioned earlier, right? Who taught you to build? Because again, this is about in right now. I'm thinking about young people that are so capable that don't connect with others very well, right? And I get nephews and kids and whatever, that I know that they're so doggone intelligent, and the capability is so amazing, right? They even have persistence in many cases, right? They take responsibility, but they lack what you have. And maybe that's part of the self-confidence thing, right? To be able to go up to anybody, shake their, welcome them to wherever you're at, shake hands with them, look them in the eyes, and just connect with them, right? Ask them a little bit about themselves. Who gave you that? Was that your dad? Was that, who in your life had that?
I don't know. Boy, how to get that. It's something I always admired in other people, though, from day one, right? Who was the leader? Who was the person that when they walked into the room, everybody kind of gravitated to? It's a lot easier to do that today, right? We've got the title, we've got the experience. People want to gravitate to that, and you have that. You even have the business card, right? That says, "Hey, you're the leader." Working your way up to that, right? You know,
You think it's all, you think it's kind of natural? It's just it's just part of your genes.
I think there's a part of it. I'm way better at it today than I was before. I have way more confidence today. There was other times I did it, but I'd either try and fake it. I learned from a lot of mistakes. Um, things that, when I did things the wrong way, maybe relationships or partnerships that didn't end up working out. Why didn't that work out? Let's learn from that. So, I'm much better at it today than I was 30 years ago. But it's, that's a part of continuing to move on. And it's something that I aspired to, right? I always wanted to be the person who had the ball. I want to be the person that, call it a little narcissism or whatever. But I like that leadership. I like to be the one that, hey, at the end of the day, even for myself to say, hey, this happened because of a decision I made, not because of a decision, I can't blame it on somebody else. I took the shot. I made the pass. I did those things. So, I think a little bit, some of it was intrinsic, and something that I had and aspired to. And then, tried to look for those mentors or look for those, we call them a mentor now. As a kid, we called it an idol, right? Hey, who's your hero and things of that nature. It's kind of the same thing in different ways. It's just your level of maturity kind of goes up. Not that I don't still have heroes, right? Because I do. And you're trying to aspire to that. And if you pick the right ones, that's a good place. That's the, you're going to probably end up, taking on some of those characteristics, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think, when you think about, confidence and, self-confidence there is a level of self-confidence sometimes that we might have that our our better halves might say, boy, you sound a little bit narcissistic there. You sound a little bit overconfident there.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're dead on. They're right, right? But I feel like if you take personal responsibility, or your second value that you talk about, take personal responsibility. You want the ball, you take the ball, but when you miss the shot, you're the first to say, my bad, missed the shot. When you miss the pass, you don't hit that open guy. Hey, my
Yeah.
bad, right? I believe that if you're taking personal responsibility, and self-confidence very seldom comes off as narcissism. And we know those people that take the ball and they have a lot of self-confidence, but they're not always there to admit when they do something wrong, right? And
No, yeah. Even if the
that's-
team screws up, you take it, right? You're the one who stands in front of them. We may come back and shut the door and say, let's go over what happened, but out in front in the group, hey, it's yours to take. I got the opportunity to have lunch one day with Lieutenant Colonel Honore, and I don't know if you guys remember him. He's one of my somebody I really look up to, and he was really became famous. And when the Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, and everything in FEMA and everything was a mess, George Bush sent him down, and he's from New Orleans. And we talked a little bit about what what he discovered, the tactics he used to get it. And his first job was to get everybody out, right? And he said that one of the greatest things he thinks in a leader is you got to know which rules to break, when to break them, and you have to take the responsibility for it. It was,
Yes.
and he was talking about a bunch of, he flew in a bunch of commercial jets, 737s into New Orleans, and putting the citizens of New Orleans who have lost everything. They don't have an ID. They don't have anything. And the pilots wouldn't let them on the plane because they didn't have an ID and couldn't go through the background check, and literally on the tarmac. And he tells the story of saying, well, look at all these other guys that report to me with guns on their back. These people are getting on the airplane. He broke the rules, but he said, I was also going to be willing to take the responsibility if that blew up, but I had to get these people out and get them from New Orleans to Houston. And that was one, that always, it didn't surprise me because my father had, instilled that same stuff in us, but it certainly validated, some things there.
Awesome. Yeah, and I was blessed in the last week to spend it with General Flynn. And as I mentioned before we got on here, and the treatment he got from these presidents of these countries in the Balkans was incredible, but his reputation preceded him, right? They knew who he was. They watched him over the last 15 years. They
Right.
watched him put his personal his personal reputation on the line, and actually get really, hammered by the highest levels of our country, right? Over the last 15, 10, 7, 8, 9 years for sure. But he was outspoken, 12, 15 years ago about what was going on in the world and why he was not kind of falling in line with even the the leadership of our country, and he got hammered for that and lost everything financially, actually. So I get to be friends with him when this happened years ago, but in knowing that I had a friendship with him, I've brought him in to be a partner in this global
Yeah.
business we're building. And but I didn't even think about this, actually. I just thought I got a person that understands how the world works. He understands the corruption across the world, and he'd be a good guy to have on my team, right?
Yeah.
Number one, I didn't think he'd say yes, but what was the coolest thing is the respect he gains from leaders of countries, because they know whether they agree with him or not. They know he's gonna say what's on his mind. He's not gonna pull any punches. He's honest as can be. And so it was really amazing. But again, this is the same thing, an example of a person that he's transferring the trust that he garners across the globe to being partnered with the ditch digger paving guy, right? And
Yeah.
for me, without him, I go there and they're like, "Who the heck are you? Why are you here?" Right?
Yeah.
You don't pave in my country. What they just instead after a couple meetings with each of these leaders, in the end, they said, "Hey, if we figure out the financing model, we want Rabine Global to do our business, do our infrastructure work." So it's really amazing. But again, it's the same thing that you talk about. It's we have leaders that make decisions with and take total personal responsibility, even if it's losing everything. As a great leader will sometimes, the reputation that comes with that, usually by people that are honorable people, is incredible, right?
100%. And the word you said there a bunch of times is trust, right? And trust is the thing that ties it all together. And trust takes years. Hey, you undersell yourself. I've watched you too. You're a great connector. You're tied into a lot of different folks, right? And you're doing the right things. You're pulling the right people in. To come in and say, hey, for me to be, for me or my team or Rabine to be successful, this is the right person I got to pull in on this play, right? And it may be somebody else, in another scenario. But at the end of the day, still, it all goes down to trust, because trust takes years to build. It takes seconds to lose, and you don't get that back. And so that's where, hey, as a leader, you're done if the people you're trying to lead lose trust in you. And so you have to live those values, right? Everybody's watching you. Everybody's seeing it, and everybody's looking to see how you're going to go, and that's your brand, right? You don't get to, I always laugh sometimes. I always see some of these companies or what have you, right? Certainly not NationaLease or Rabine, and they'll list their values up on a wall. And we have to be cognizant of that here too, because I said we can put as much as we want, by the water cooler and say these are the values of NationaLease. But the culture of NationaLease is really what we do. It's not what we paint on the wall. And so the team will say, they'll look and see how the leadership team is acting. And if we're allowing behavior that we say we don't allow, that's what your culture is. It's not what's on the wall. It's not what you claim it is to be. It's what everybody says on Friday night when they go have a beer after work together and say, boy, what was Dean thinking? Or I can't believe we're doing this, right? We say we're this, but we're really this.
Okay. So some of you mentioned there that makes me think so much about this. So transferable trust. Okay. When Dean, when you say something and I take it very seriously when you say something that I should be listening to, or when you recommend somebody. I gotta say this, I think about this now because I just realized it just happened. But I got a call from our chief revenues officer about some young lady that applied for a job with us. And he goes, I got a few people that we like here, but there's one young lady that a friend of yours, Dean, Vicha, recommended very highly. And
Yeah,
I
great.
said, if Dean recommended her, dude, she's got to go to the top of that list because there's not many people I trust more than Dean. So please look into that, and maybe make a call to Dean, right? And sure enough, that young lady, I've not had to have the honor of meeting her yet, but
Yeah,
he hired her and he's raving about her, and
that's great.
what a great person she is. And again, it happen. It's very easy to commit to somebody where somebody that you trust, brings that relationship or the recommendation relationship, right? And so, the more valuable than cold calling and selling, right? Is understanding where those relationship of trust lie and how you can use those, right? Because when if Dean recommends Rabine, I guarantee to somebody that trusts him, it's way better than any cold call could ever be, or any call could ever, even warm call could ever be. When somebody that has high level of trust says, "Hey, you're going to get that parking lot done, you got to call my friend Rabine. You can trust that it's going to get done right." And it's just like this young lady who I think she's, I'm excited because when Mike talks about her, this girl is exactly what Dean said. She's amazing. She
Good.
gets stuff done, right? So
Good.
anyway, transferring trust, I think about it, it's a big lesson that I don't know that I understood for a long time, right? I understood how valuable that is compared to just, I'm going to go knock on that door. I'm going to go knock on that door. Hey, sales team, we need to knock on these doors, right?
Yeah,
It's all great. You need to do some of that. But boy, it doesn't, it's not a quarter, 10% is impactful until you have that relationship of trust that can transfer
yeah,
that target,
yeah.
right? So,
Yeah. But you still need to knock on that door. Then that gives you the opportunity to earn the trust, right? And then
exactly.
when things go, to your point, that's when things go viral, right? I think that's that's the word that you try and do. And hey, boy, you get one with it, boy, you really take care of somebody whose door you knocked on, and then they go tell 3 friends, right? And then and then you take care of those 3, and then each one of them tells 3. Well, now you got something. Now that flywheel, right, is really going, and that's
Sure.
when the company or the business or whatever it is you're trying.
But the wrench to the flywheel is when you lose trust, right? That wrench, you throw the wrench in there, boom. Now, boy, it's not one relationship, it's many that go by the wayside when you lose that trust.
Hey, we always say this, right? Somebody tells you, and somebody thinks that you did something great. They tell 3 people. Somebody thinks that you wronged them. They tell everybody, right? And so that's that's a tough one to come back. So that's just kind of the nature of the beast. But
For sure. Okay, so hey, tell us, Dean, what's going on in your business? I mean, we've got challenges. We had challenges last year with the tariffs and all that. We had to reshuffle the deck on a lot of things, and
yeah,
this year looks a little better. But now we got a war and a major war going on, right? That's gonna throw a wrench in some things. How have you been affected in the last few years? And what are you doing? Is there some pivots you're making? What are you guys doing in business to stay strong?
yeah, it's a really interesting time. It's a transformational time in our business right now. I think we talked when we kicked off or right before we got on the call. It's been 5 years. I think that's an interesting time frame because that means when I did the podcast with you 5 years ago, it was right before COVID, right? And I still think we have the effects in our industry of COVID. And I say that because before COVID, you used to be able to go in and say, hey, there was always there was a pattern to transportation. And that pattern was, for better or worse, was a 7-year pattern of 2 good years, 2 bad years, and 3 kind of in between. And you manage and you manage yourself through those things. Transportation's always been an EKG report, right? It doesn't just move up systematically. So, but you could trust some things and say, hey, if this is happening, then this is going to happen. That's not true today. And it's because of a lot of things. And you think about when COVID hit and everything shut down, we literally had more than 50% of our fleet of trucks up against the fence, and customers, the phone's ringing off the bill saying, Can you forgive our payments? Can you let us, give us some time? We had one customer, they deliver flowers all the way up and down the East Coast. Nobody was buying flowers, and nobody could deliver flowers to a house because you couldn't be across from anybody, right?
Yeah.
Their entire fleet of trucks, over 100 trucks, was up against the fence that they were leasing from us. And that was more the norm, not the exception. Certainly we had some parts of our business, that were required, right? Had to deliver water, had to deliver food, had to deliver, health products, things of that nature. But for the most part, we were putting a tourniquet around everything and wondering how long is this going to last? And then there was a big trough of money that was pumped into the economy. And I'm not getting into politics, whether something was right or wrong. This was factually what happened. And the transportation market exploded. I have some theories on it that haven't been talked about, but hey, everybody still had money to spend.
Yeah.
A lot of people still weren't going back to work, or weren't allowed to go back to work. So you had all this money that could, supply demand, right? One of the classes I did pay attention to in school. So you had all this demand, but supply was way down. And so everything moved up, right? We saw inflation, but people were still buying things, and we were still needing, our business exploded to the point when we would go talk to the OEMs, our partners, the people we buy the trucks from, that we lease to our customers, people like Walgreens, people like Raider Garage Door, people, like the New York Daily News, whomever. When we would go to them, they would say, this is how many trucks you get to order this year, and this is what it costs. We never negotiated the price. We negotiated how many trucks do we get. I need enough trucks because I'm not getting as many. And maybe as an industry at that time, we were probably getting 60 to 70% of the supply that we needed to take care of our customers.
Mm-hmm.
Take that down the road a couple of years, the money runs out, comes out of the system, right? And we are about to enter the fourth year of a transportation recession. So that's where we sit today. We all bought too many trucks. Then we had too many trucks in our fleet. And now maybe we had 100, if we had 100 trucks, maybe 85 were being utilized. And now how do we move out of these and we right size our fleet, right? Because even though if a truck's against the fence, it's costing you money. You got depreciation, and you have interest. You even have, wear and tear can still happen to tires and things of that nature. So we are literally in that stage, right now where, if you look at the freight market, freight is down, and freight rates are real low. The used truck market, the value of used truck markets are real low, and the amount of trucks being ordered are certainly low. And on top of that, we've got a lot of government regulation that we've dealt with. You talk about 5 years ago, we were all convinced that we were going to a road of electric trucks, making up 40-50% of our fleets, especially depending on what states you were in.
Yeah.
One administration leaves and a new administration comes in, and really changes what all those rules are. In some ways, that's good. Our country, in my estimation, was not ready for the transition that was going to happen at the speed. We want the safest, cleanest trucks in the world, but they also have to work. And there has to be an infrastructure that takes care of that. And at the end of the day, economies matter as well, right? And so the cost of what we are looking to do versus where we're at today really matters. So a lot of companies invested billions of dollars in developing this technology, in developing the capabilities to build it and literally have it flipped. And so there's a lot of money that can't be recouped. On top of that, again, we have some more government regulation that will take place in the transportation world in 2027. The price of a truck in 2027, I can't tell you the exact price, but we estimate it's going to be somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000 increase for new engines that have to meet new environmentally clean standards, set by the government. That's still going to happen. So we all thought that this year in 26, there was going to be a big pre-buy. People were going to order as many trucks as they could to beat that. Problem is, I always say this in our industry, you go bankrupt by having too many trucks. You never go bankrupt by not having enough.
Right.
And so we're in a position right now where we're trying to play this game and try and figure out, hey, is this economy going to start picking up? There's a couple of little signs out there from where I sit that say it is, but it's not ready yet. Um, but if so, we're all going to make a big push to get as many trucks built before January 1st of 2027 as we can, because it's going to save us, our customers, a lot of money, and quite frankly, at the end of the day, the consumer a lot of money, because we all know where that price is going to go, right? We're all, we're all here to make money, not lose money. So, the technology of our industry is changing. I think most industries are in the same boat, at least the ones that I talk to. It's a challenging year this year. Maybe flat growth. Nobody's really telling me that things are great right now, and they're really humming. At least people that use trucks aren't. So we're managing through the longest transportation recession I've ever been in my career, and I've been 33 years. Usually recessions in transportation last 2 years, not 4. But there's a lot of outside influences to transportation that never happened before COVID, or to the same degree that we have now. And we have all these things that have kind of come in together to make this new stew that says, I can't really look back at past figures, at past graphs, and say, well, this is where we're going, right? We have to kind of work through this without the brochure and make the best decisions that we can with what's with what we've got to work with. But we're doing it in a conservative way. We're in really good position, whereas quite frankly, our fleet is as big as it's ever been. We've got a lot of mergers and acquisitions going on in our industry right now. I would say that that's probably the other big thing that I see more than ever. I think 8 of our national accounts that we have business are on one side or the other of an acquisition right now. And I see a lot more of that. So we have less members of National Lease than we did before, but we have more locations than we ever did. And we have, our customers, if they're not a national account, they're either going to be a national account someday, I think, or they're going to get bought by a national account. And we really are focusing a lot on our national account business, with that in mind. So I know I kind of jumped in a couple of places right now, because at the end of the day, right? Well, his short answer is there's a lot of going on. It's very transitional. We've got to be flexible and nimble, and we're looking for the opportunity in the chaos right now. And I haven't even talked about tariffs, but they certainly have affected our business just as much as everybody else, because even our customers, they may say, hey, if I got 20 trucks that are coming due this year, we might just replace 16.
Sure. Wait, where do you see AI and robotics going in your industry? Let's just throw a view 5 or 10 years out there. What do you feel like how's it going to affect your industry?
Boy, there's some places I think it's going to be transformational. And some places, not as much. I don't think it's taking over the industry, right? I'm not so sure I buy into this world where there's a $1 billion valuation company with 1 employee, right? So we are definitely looking at it, spending a lot of time doing things like utilizing it, or learning how to utilize it, or building the infrastructure to utilize it for diagnosing problems with trucks. So it's a lot faster. Our mechanic, when there's an issue with a truck, we can get to what the solution is way faster in those places. So things like that, we're looking at it, and we have a piece with every employee of National Lease right now. I've given them all something that we've put in their personnel file. You will not lose your job for any idea or for any AI places where we can utilize AI to make us a better organization. But it's your job this year to come up with one idea or one place where we can utilize AI to make your job more efficient and give you the ability to grow within our organization and do something at a bigger level.
I like that, Dean, and that's part of your culture, right? Of personal responsibility, right? We should all be responsible for using the best tools possible, right? To create the best service for our customer and deliver the best products. But a lot of times, as when we talk about AI and robotics and the ideas that will solve a lot of problems, your team or anybody is going to be a little apprehensive, right? If they think that there's a chance of it taking their job. And so
Yeah.
that confidence or that comfort you gave them and making that statement is a big deal. I don't think I've ever done that. I think it's a great idea that, hey, if you're committed to your team, you want them to discover whatever makes us better and it gives us a better product to serve our customers. But yet you don't give them that comfort that, hey, man, you find a solution, rest assured that solution won't be taking your job, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna always honor those teammates that are diving to serve each other better, right? So I love that thought that, hey, if there's a way you can give them that confidence, that's a big deal because I don't think I've done that. And I said, let's we need to discover everything we can with AI and robotics, everything we can to
Yeah.
make our customers' lives easier and deliver a better product. But I don't think I've ever said, that and made that statement. So I like that.
Yeah, I think it's a tool, right? I think sometimes we get really excited and hey, maybe that's just human nature to go over. I don't see a world today where we ever use it to replace our relationships, and I think that may be our own unfair advantage in the future. I love it when I hear a competitor is using AI to work through a sales lead or an opportunity or deal with customer service. That's great. We're not going to do that. We're a family, we're the business that's got an entrepreneurial mindset with family values. And so you're going to talk to somebody that cares about you and we're going to, move forward that way. Now, are we going to use AI in other places to make us way more efficient and make us better? Absolutely. I don't think it's a solution for all. But right now we're spending a lot of time trying to find out where it is a solution and, how we can use it or not use it to make us better.
Absolutely. I like it. When you think about your team of today, in your industry, right? We talk about industries kind of dying and people aren't going to be around to do that job anymore,
Yeah.
this job anymore.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like your industry, my industry is probably better industries to be in when it comes to AI and robotics taking jobs.
Yeah.
Skilled trades and stuff like that. What's your feeling on all that?
Yeah. Hey,
Your industry compared to others, right?
yeah, I think so. For sure. Hey, I always tell somebody when they're young and they're getting into our business, this is a great industry to be in. It's not a sexy business. So there's not a lot of people. We're having some challenges with bench strength and attracting good people to come into the transportation world. But hey, trucks aren't going anywhere. For now, right? Maybe drones will deliver everything someday, but in one form or the other, everything that we still have comes on a truck at one point. So in that realm, it's good. This business is changing. It's evolving just like every other business does. But I feel really confident that, hey, there's a lot of things. We talk about autonomous trucks and we talk about electric trucks and we talk about drones being able to do deliveries and all those things are capable. And there's even technologies we haven't even thought about that are going to come down the road. But this business is still a people business. And I may sound a little old school, but where we can utilize these things and then have that personal relationship, which is what I still think gives you an unfair advantage in business. Do what you say you're going to do it better than anybody else. And be somebody and earn trust. That's still two people, doing business. Our business is really based on a truck mechanic in our shop and the driver. And if those guys are really partners and they care about each other and that's working, the driver gets in the truck and feels confident that he's going to make those deliveries out on the road, and that this mechanic is going to be here and that they're going to support each other, we're going to do really well. And I don't know if AI can get, AI might help, develop that and it might help build on it. But AI isn't going to take jobs are just going to, they're going to be different. They're going to be, there's going to be different roles. You're going to have more tools, quite frankly, right? You're going to be able to do better. I'm sure that there was a big candlestick union that went crazy when light bulbs came out, right? And what's going to happen? And all the people who were training horses when cars came out, right? This stuff happens. It's a natural evolution. The one thing it does is it happens faster today than it ever did. Technology changes everything. But
Sure.
we need to be adaptable and just because you can't imagine maybe what that job's going to be like. There's going to be jobs 10 years from now. We're not even thinking about that people, they're going to give people great opportunities and, to improve their lives and improve the lives of their family.
For sure. Chris, what other questions you got for our buddy Dean? We can't burn up too much more of his time today, and I want to make sure we encapsulate what we've heard today. What any question you got for our buddy?
Dean, the sequel's better than the original, my man. Thank you so much for sharing your time. I loved your perspective on encouraging your team. If they can find an AI solution, you guarantee it won't take their job. I think that's super important for staying relevant, staying innovative, staying with the times. We have tons of folks on this show and other shows I participate in. I haven't heard that. That's great. How have you seen that like affect, I guess, the workforce or output or any sort of specific insights gained from that?
Yeah. It's funny. I would love to say it's been a be all end all, and we're getting hammered, right? Fear. Fear is a huge motivator for humans, right? And especially when you're talking about, they don't come to National Lease because National Lease is number one. I don't expect them to. We always say it here, right? It's your God, it's your family, and then it's National Lease. And I hope that that's kind of the order that they look at things. So they're going to look for their family first. So. We've had some that have embraced it and are coming up with great ideas, and some not so much yet. Quite frankly, we're doing a lot of work too. So, having that free time to sit down and say, and some don't even know how to think about it, and that's something we probably need to work on as an organization is what's the mindset to think about what this is and what are the capabilities of AI. And we probably should do some more educating for everybody in that role there. But it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good. What they'll do is, they'll look at the behavior, and if there's ever somebody that leaves here, and they can say, well, maybe it's because this new technology took their role, then that'll be the be all end all. Sometimes it'll take a little bit of time, but boy, we've probably even got more good ideas right now than we can even work on, right? And now we've got to go pick out one or two that are executable. That we can get done while continuing to move on with the tasks that we have in our daily businesses. So I think it's been pretty good. I've been pretty happy with the responses.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
There's a lot out there, right? I don't even know. I'm not a technology person. Our IT leadership, Ashley, will tell you the same thing, right? But I think there's certainly some things out there, and there's some great ideas at all different levels in our organization that we're going to be able to implement. And we're a small company that does big things. That's always how I describe us, right? National Lease, we compete with Ryder and Penske every day. They're the big box stores. We're the Ace Hardware. They're Lowe's and Home Depot. So anything I can do, I think AI, I'll put it this way, right? I think AI is like a gun. And a gun makes us, before there were guns, it was really, all right, who's the biggest person in this fight? And they're going to probably win, right? A gun was a great equalizer. It gives everybody the ability to defend themselves to some level. And I'm not doing anything political on that either. I'm not touching that one. But AI could be like that kind of a level of technology in business where a small company that utilizes it the right way can compete on a more equal scale with some of the bigger, with some of the big guys out there. And that's what we're looking to do. Our corporate office, our teams are a lot smaller than those guys, but we compete with them in every single market in the United States and Canada. And again, we're just looking for a way to do, to get better every day and to be, to be the best truck rental, leasing, and dedicated logistics company in the industry.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Dean. And then you mentioned leading the the company through the largest transportation recession that you've ever experienced. That's very interesting because most barometers in the industry, in just the economy as a
Yeah.
whole, be like, "Oh, we're not in a recession."
Yeah. I
It's
don't
like
get it.
it's like our transportation that's transporting our goods is
Yeah.
in a recession. So how is it that the economy as a whole is not in a recession? That doesn't math to me.
Boy, Chris, that's a much better question for people who are way smarter than I am. But
Yeah.
give you why I say it. I talked to another guy, a mutual friend of Gary and ours, I think last summer, Brent Berdesky, who I think is a really bright guy, and especially in understanding the economy and markets and things of that nature. And I said, Brent, I don't understand what's going on. To your point, everybody I talk to in our industry, and our industry supports every industry that builds a product and delivers a product, right? So that's a lot. We're not siloed in one area. Food and beverage, steel, you name it, construction, agriculture. We're there. Really said, hey, maybe there's a couple things really propping it up. AI investment, certainly on Wall Street, right? Healthcare, things of that nature, government spending. Certainly, those things come up. But when it comes to people making products and delivering products, not so much. I think, I have one theory, why that maybe the numbers don't always match, right? You hear people's revenues are up, but I would love to know about how many units people are selling. Inflation's a real deal. Tariffs are real. It's not even where it's at. I'm convinced that most of our big vendors have not passed on everything that they've taken for a tariff so far. I'm still scared that there's another trough, that when the economy starts getting better, people are going to start going after the margin and the revenue that they've lost in the place. I've just kind of branded it margin integrity. We would always say, hey, if we're selling this, we want this kind of a margin. Every business does it. Businesses have had to eat a lot of that over the last couple of years, since almost since COVID to a T. But they also don't want to lose market share. So if the demand is down, right, they lower the price, they take a little bit more. But boy, if all of a sudden we start ordering and we see our world going up, boy, I expect those prices to start moving up too. And people to get back at what their historical margins were, and to be moving there. I couldn't tell you which business by business where it's at, but we may have some revenues that show a little bit better, but the margins certainly aren't. And I don't think, and I think if you ask somebody and said, well, boy, this looks pretty good. Well, inflation helps revenue, right? And, even the price of oil, a big thing now. Somebody selling oil today, their revenue is going to go up. As long as people are still using trucks and driving, we're going to burn it. It's going to cost a lot more. Whether we can pass that on 100% to our customer or not, that's led to be seen. But when the demand starts moving up, I think you're going to see the price move up very fast. It always does, but I think it's going to happen. I think people are going to be looking for an opportunity to recapture, especially in our industry, especially with OEMs who have spent billions of dollars developing electric trucks and things of that nature that they never even got to sell. I think there's another trough, that could be coming, and at the end of the day, and I know you probably get close, I think it's important for business leaders today to look at the history and look at the notes and maybe look at the KPIs that they've historically looked at, but maybe not completely trust all of them and I think the winners are going to be the ones that recognize what the new, what the new measurables are to be able to predict. Because at the end of the day, really, it's way more about predicting what's going to happen than saying, hey, this is what has happened, right?
Yeah, and studying the past, it is the best thing we can do is studying the past, understanding, the changes in our industry over the course of generations, if we can even, right? To understand the future is a big thing. But as you said earlier, and I'm saying too, this is a different, it's a different, it's a different day, right? We're doing things today and things are going on today that we've never seen before. It's having a four-year recession isn't common. And in our business, we've had a couple of tough years that we didn't have before, right? Even so, again, I agree with you. There's so many things that we got to focus on to get back to what solid positive business is, and you better work on it, because and you better make sure you differentiate in your future offering, if you're going to stay on top of delivering the best to your customers with technology or not, right? So, well, Chris, anything else you got for our buddy?
I got some killer takeaways.
Lay it on us, buddy.
Yeah. I never looked at Paul Revere as a great connector, but that makes a lot of sense.
I didn't until that day either, Chris.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a whole new spin on that story. I love it. Culture needs to be demonstrated, and only do business with people who demonstrate it. There is such a thing as failure, and you can learn from it as well. And as far as how to find a great mentor, go find someone who is a little ahead of you and quote unquote ride their coattails. I think that's about the most pragmatic mentor advice I've ever heard. Know which rules to break and when to break them to be a great leader. I love the story about the colonel in New Orleans during Katrina. And then, with just the insane rate of change that this technology and AI is causing, I think saying something to the effect of your team, if you find a solution that incorporates this technology, I guarantee it won't take your job. I think that's just about the most secure way to ensure keeping up with competitors and satisfying clients. Dean, thank you so much, man. This was awesome.
Oh, thank you guys. Always a lot of fun with you too.
And I got just a couple of things. Persistence. I think there are three things you mentioned: persistence, personal responsibility, and self-confidence. So with those three things, you can go after and conquer the world, right? And if you find something you love doing, you build a team that loves serving the same market you're serving, you're going to win. And Dean, you're an amazing example. Mentorship of I think I like that term, like trust broker. You're a guy that if Dean trusts that person, man, a lot of other people are going to too. And that's a valuable part of leadership in life that you exude. And then networking, right? Networking, mastermind theory of if you're like YPO, right? If you can surround yourself with people that love serving, love building business, love leadership and entrepreneurship, and all the things you love, build that network of people, that mastermind group of people that you can be bouncing things off of, that you can be used as their resource and them as yours, right? So again, these are all things that seem like second nature, basic things, right? But boy, if everybody had these skills, American business would be even crazier, successful, and dominate the world a little more. So
Yeah.
So we appreciate you, buddy, as our friend and as the Ditch Digger CEO. And anybody listening, you can go back to number 52 from 5 years ago, and you'll see Dean hasn't changed a lot. But boy, and you'll hear it kind of more as his upbringing and other things. But you'll see that this guy doesn't change. He continues to be the guy that all of us can trust and count on every day. So thanks, Dean, for being here. I really appreciate you, brother.
No, hey, thank you. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the opportunities you've given me, because you're one of those guys that that I look up to, and that I know. Hey, if I hold myself accountable to Gary Rabine standards, I'm doing something okay.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
But,
Chris, what a great podcast as always, with the blessings of this guy we got on, and we're gonna think about a lot of stuff today after talking to our buddy, and really appreciate that. So until next time,
all right.
we'll see you next time on Ditch Digger CEO. Thank you.